One team who I think is going to struggle to keep it on the tracks, at least on a path to 9 wins. It's a team that I'm also been pretty publicly bearish on in the SEC, and that's the Ole Miss Rebels. Ole Miss, we're going under their win total of 8.5. And Mr. Luckett, I've mentioned this before. I predicted a Kentucky victory over Ole Miss in week 2. They have the least amount of returning production in the SEC. Austin Simmons is in his first year starting, and he's only 19 years old. He reclassed up 2 spots to get there. I believe his returning leading receiver didn't have 10 receptions last year in Caden Lee. Something crazy like that. It's a completely brand new rebuilt team. They went all in a year ago, and they didn't have much to show for it. They had a 9-win season to show for it. The numbers will be much more bullish on them because when they won big, and they would put up gaudy numbers. And they'll still do that sometime this year, but when you play the schedule game, even notwithstanding, I'm taking out my Kentucky prediction. But, let's be real. Tulane and Kentucky are going to give them fits early in the year. Hell, Washington State might. Probably not. That team got completely gutted by the portal and conference realignment. But even if I give those to Ole Miss in games that could be a little bit tricky, I can get to 7. But in order to hit this over, they've got to win 2 games of Florida at home, at Oklahoma, at South Carolina, LSU, and at Georgia. They ain't beating LSU, ain't winning to Georgia. I know that LSU game's at home. LSU is a playoff team this year. Got the Heisman Trophy winner playing quarterback with an awesome star-studded group of receivers. I know you're not big on Oklahoma, but you think that game's going to be easy for them? You think going into Williams-Brice Stadium's easy? They have to win 2 of those games for my over to hit. So, I like the odds there, man. I think you're asking them to do a lot for a first-year starter. And I do go back to Jackson Dart's first-year starting. I mean, he even had a year under his belt at USC where he had played a lot of football, and they were 8-4 that year. So I just think you're asking way too much for a team to get back to that bar where they were a year ago with a brand-new roster. This is giving Kiffin too much benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, to me, you look at Ole Miss, and this is a reset year. I don't think there's any getting around that. They're not going to be as good on defense. They don't have near as good of a roster. Their receivers are going to be fine. Caden Lee had a good year last year in the slot, and the guys they've added can play a little bit. They were productive at Penn State. Trey Wallace and Deshaun Stribling was productive at Oklahoma State. Offensive line is still kind of shaky, but they're going to be. I mean, it's a Lane Kiffin offense. It's really just a bet on how good you think Austin Simmons is. Because if they go 9-3 or better, Austin Simmons is probably awesome.
Yeah.
If they go 8-4 or worse, he's probably not a star, right? So it's really do you have a good read on Austin Simmons? Because that's what this bet is to me. Because of the schedule and everything you mentioned, it's the team, the Jackson Dart that went 8-4. I believe that team started 8-1. They lost to Bama and kind of fell apart. But that team, I think, took advantage of what ended up being a really good schedule for them. This year's, I think, a little different in that regard. So really, it's however you feel about Austin Simmons. To me, this Ole Miss transfer portal class is not as good as the ones he's had. I think generally across the board, these portal classes this year, the market wasn't as good as some recent years we've seen. And so what does that mean for Ole Miss? We'll see. It feels like this is a year where they take a step back, and then what does it look like? It may be a year where we find out just how high the floor is. But 8.5, it sounds like a rich number when you can kind of consider all of that.
They also do the thing where, I think if I'm counting this correctly, they have 7 straight games to end the season where there's no bye. So, That can get tough. That can get tough on the depth. I also need to correct myself. Was totally wrong with Caden Lee. He had 57 receptions last year. I'm mistaking him for somebody else. My apologies. It's been a lot of number crunching.